Hello and welcome, as it is the 25th day of January 2018. My name is Derek. Everything you do within your own risk and your own reward. So this video I'm going to go over silver, the gold to silver ratio, and that of Litecoin. I did make a trade today, or I made a purchase rather, not with Bitcoin. And I've been wanting to do this just for a while because now that where I buy my physical silver, silvergoldbull.ca, they accept Dash, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and that of Litecoin. And I just wanted to try it, see how long it would take for the time when I push my last confirmation button on my hardware wallet to the time when they would say, yep, we got paid. The order's done, and that was about 8 seconds, so that was awesome. The fee for me to buy 50 troy ounces, and it wouldn't have mattered if I bought 58 or 800, the fee's pretty much, I think, always around the same. It's like nothing. 3 cents to move Litecoin? Oh, awesome. Doesn't cost much at all. So the ratio in turning 5.422. 993 Litecoin to 50 troy ounces, which worked out to $24 exactly Canadian, is 9.22 ounces for Litecoin. I think this number is going to have some interesting changes this year. So I'm going to go over the charts, go over silver. I went over gold quite a bit on the 2.5 minute warning yesterday and a bit this morning as well. But I want to talk a little bit about that, what the WebBot has been saying about it. And they haven't been too accurate in pricing. And the Litecoin, and that is for the precious metals. They've been very accurate, of course, within cryptocurrencies lately. Of course, the lately in cryptocurrencies it doesn't got much history. But we'll get to Litecoin in a little while. But the gold to silver ratio currently in at about 77 2/5 has had a decent fall from the 79.5 level, or 79 2/5 as well. So falling about 2 basis points, 3%-ish. And that is because both silver and gold are having some nice rallies. Generally speaking, if the precious metals are in any kind of decent to awesome bull market, up days and all that stuff, you're going to expect there's a darn near good chance that this is going to go higher, or lower rather. It's going to go lower in price when they go higher. And then when the precious metals go lower, well, then this goes higher. Now, within the analysis of this chart, and forgetting about fundamentals, because if I wasn't looking at fundamentals, I'd probably be buying gold instead of that of silver. And I don't got much gold. I got a ½ an ounce of gold in total in 5 different pieces. So a few grams, little bits here and there, from 1.5 as the smallest piece, 5 as the largest. So there's 3 times in which this ratio hit the same level. Significant resistance was played in here, as it spent several days amongst there, but never at that time went higher. It supported this level, so there's a lot of reasons why you'd want to be bullish. But at the same point, when you go from point A to point B, you expect if point C is going to take you to a lower high, and usually at 61.8, that is fine. And it got up to about even higher than that. Looks like it came up to about a 80+% retracement. You kind of want it to come back to about here, maybe meet up with this 18 average. How it's now setting up, and I'm going to remove the drawing tool so we can see it a bit better. How it's playing out within this 18 average of lows is a concern that this thing is going to go lower, and thus do so by either just continuing its lower movements, probably finding support here, or maybe it's going to make some sort of higher high, or lower high rather, and then break what would be more established support and get again to the same level. And then this is just a test, of course, of those key support marks. And we're going to take a look at different time frames now. So let's move this on to the let's go monthly chart. Let's get to the gist of the situation. So the areas in which it's been testing is this little point in here. There's also been a 3-hit resistance area from 2003. That's when silver bottomed. And then it hit a resistance point in 2008, 2009. Again, silver bottomed. Then it hit a resistance point in the end of, this point around here. Again, silver bottomed, even though it's been a long time. When it made its lows, silver that is, in here, it has not seen those lows since. So because I expect a bull market in the precious metals, and the previous bull markets had, of course, this decline, and then this decline as well, I'm going to be expecting that it's going to have yet another decline. Within this, I see this number in here. This is basically around 32 it hit. And historically, the ratios, and if you've been following silver, you know what number I'm going to say. It's probably going to be 16, so let's make it 16, or in that ballpark area. And on the webbot, long time ago, a mention about this ratio going to par or to 1. Yikes, that would be an interesting situation, which fundamentally wouldn't surprise me given silver keeps on getting mined and consistently used to large degrees that they have to pull from the supply that's been held, the inventory rather. And yet gold gets mined and it gets turned largely into silver bars, coins, rounds for investment purposes, as well as jewelry, which I still count as an investment as well. So therefore, a lot of gold gets accumulated, and a lot of great uses have been known for silver that if there gets into physical issues, then that number would not surprise me to the slightest. So then, that is why I purchased that of silver, but that's been the way it has been for me for quite some time. I have only ever, on 3 different occasions, I think, bought in gold. I bought 1.5 grams once, I bought 5 grams, and I bought 9 grams. 15.5, so I got a half an ounce or so approximately that of gold. And let's turn now to the silver price, which had this interesting U/V shape pattern, resisting back at the point where it did in the later parts of October and November, or the entire parts rather of October and November for the most part, but yeah, the latter part of October and all of November. It has now gotten above the October highs, where gold is now at levels not seen in 1.5 years. So therefore, I do expect silver to catch up and do quite phenomenally as it moves forward. Short term, yeah, maybe it might come back and make a move to these 18 average, but you know what, I would have said and probably did say the same thing back when it was going to 16.5 at the later part of 2017. And it didn't do so. So it could really, at this stage, go either way. In fact, we can see even short term that it's been doing a little bit of correcting. Let's take a look at this on an hourly time frame, and there we can see a little bit of sideways action. So short term, we've had this 17 and a hair under 50, or 17 and 4/9, we'll say 17, yeah, and resistance at about 17 and 2/3, up to about 17 and 2/3. So breaking below the support, well, that's that gap fill to that higher low from the most previous one that would come into play, because that's never a surprise. You have this level of this band. If you break below here, well, you're probably going to come back to where you came from. There's where your higher low is probably going to come in at around. And then on the break of this resistance, well, we're going to test some of these new higher levels. Can't see the writing in here too well. Let me just now take a look at this on a more each longer term time frame as we move on. So then the 3-day chart, there's this resistance area field and towards this this part in here. That's where a quick move would be towards, where you'd be having a question mark. Will we find resistance? There was a question mark here when it made it. Will we find it? Yeah, we did, but we're only going to correct a bit through time, and it was this little bit of correction here before it got going. But that's where I fully expect, even on a short-term level, for it not only to get up to this 18 area, well, that's the lowest end of resistance rather. So get up to 18, up to about 18 2/3, 1865 as a test of such, and then getting above that and passing that rather, thus having its resistance and correcting with a higher or lower through time, we'd be then looking at this previous resistance level of 2016 of about the 20 area, or a bit above it, 20 to 21 as its resistance test area. And what we're going to do after this is look at a very long term, because I've talked a lot about this weekly chart and how it's been waiting for the same pattern, monthly chart rather, for quite some time. Because we had the rally in 2002 all the way up to 2011 with this little gap in here. Sometimes it takes a while. This is the longest I've ever waited for the 18 of lows to fill in. It's not even on here. There it is. Okay, so the rally again had this little blimp in 2008 when the entire financial crisis was going through what it did, which really was the inspiration to the cryptocurrencies and the Satoshi Nakamoto alias. So the decline occurred, $50 silver down. Of course, there's the lows in at about 13 and high change. So the 18 average stopped going down, established a level of resistance at about the that 21 level I just recently talked about, where it could have its next test towards. So what I look for the reversal of trend, everyone who's watched my videos knows exactly this well. Band flatten out, establish this resistance 21, come back to the band, which is now, since this red period, there's 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16. I count like 17. I might be off by one, maybe 18. So it's been a good year and a half of congesting and consolidating within this point to the situation where a lot of these moves in the daily time frame are practically meaningless, and it's still again at this 18 average of highs. Getting up above this level, yeah, that's where you'd want to come towards. And then short term, you're either gonna have a quick move usually back to this level, then break it, or just not even have any of that and just continue, and then maybe test some of these other areas in the 25 and the 26 handle range would be the next one that I'd be thinking about. Now, as far as some WebBot predictions, they're kind of out of hand, extremely out of hand for the price levels and the target times in which they would come. So let me just show you. First, I'm going to clear the screen of these drawings and go over them. I don't think they're going to happen in that time. I think the price levels they talk about are both going to happen, but in a much, much longer amount of time. Where's remove drawing tools here? Right here. All right, so then let me just scale this out to where I think, or no, not where I think, where I've read. It's going to go to okay, so it would be roughly about here at that time. So the price trajectory to do something like that. And it's actually up to here, 800-ish or so. This would be, I'm going to say insane to have a gain of like a 40x gain in a 1 year period of time. I do realize getting above all of these key areas, like I talk about the 26, 27, well, that would prelude you to 50, getting above that. Breaking 50 is new waters. So that would be very, very interesting. I don't think that's going to happen. It will. If it does, awesome, because I got a lot of silver. And what I'm hoping for would be for that not to happen as well. Ideally, what I would like for this to do is stay in this range for the next 5 years, even 3 years if it could. And I'm going to reset the scaling of this and then go to gold. But I would be very surprised, but not surprised if it were to occur. I think the only way is if there's a major event, and the only thing I can think of is the exchange trading of how it's being done, as corrupt as many believe, myself included, as it is, comes to a completion and it works in some sort of free market like the Litecoin, Bitcoin. Well then, yeah, I guess that would make sense. Let's take a look at gold. And I'm going to talk about some predictions there, and again, they're just as outrageous. Except for these predictions are not long-term, they're short-term. So let's put this to the daily chart. And it's been going up magnificent. So the short term is like next month. So we'll just even say in here. And let's do the same thing, the price target for it. It's higher than that. Higher than that. Higher than that. Higher than that. Somewhere up around here. Let me just make it so it's high. It's like better than doubling in the next month. Better than doubling. Higher than this 24. When you look at the size of the moves, that would be... Okay, let me just reset the scaling here for a second. Talk about the web bot. All the times they're wrong versus all the times they're right. If you were to try to find, and I know they're out there, some sort of proposition bet for gold to have an insane move, like, heck, we'll even talk 2,000, 22, 2,300, a significant break of the all-time highs, which, by the way, I had 1920 written on there for a second. That is what the all-time highs are. So just a move to 1920 to occur in the next, we'll say, 6 to 8 weeks, which would be looking at the March options in the stock market game, the prices would be fabulously outrageous. So if something like this is correct, and you talk about success rates, and they predict something that's got what you would think is greater or worse than a 1 or around a 1% likelihood of occurring, that's phenomenal when you're getting them right 6% of the time or 10% of the time, let alone anything higher than that. All right, so let's move this on to Litecoin. So those were outrageous. Whether they're typos, and he meant to say gold was going to be that price in a year from now, I don't think it was, because when reading it, it didn't seem to be so. That would be interesting. Okay, let's go to Litecoin. start off against Bitcoin, and then we'll go to Litecoin against the dollar. So these are that phenomenal style moves that you can oftentimes get within the cryptos. This is a spot where something goes from 005 change to 0.012. So that's about a 4x gain, a little worse than such, but better than a 3x move. And people have been talking, and I don't listen to much of it. And I don't get too many views and comments, which is kind of cool actually, but won't talk much about that. I kind of rather be one of the smaller guys, so the fact that I get several hundred views is cool, because I would start to I'd be concerned if I'm getting many thousands. But anyway, sideways action in here. So any of these declines has been, well, phenomenal. It hasn't even come close to gap filling the psychological 10 number and this previous level of resistance. And I know that when resistance gets broken, and I have no idea when that's going to be, although no, I can't say that. I have many ideas for when that's going to be. And those ideas is a few weeks from now, at least. Because when I'm reading the Webbot report that came out Christmas night, for at least when I bought it Christmas night rather, it did show to me that this thing may not have some nice gains until the end of February. And so far, of course, we've seen this sideways action. Okay, let's take a look at this against the dollar now, because this is where it's had spectacular gains like Bitcoin. When you show the price action against Bitcoin, you're basically showing how markets you'd be trading are performing against such, because the whole idea when trading Bitcoin, if that's your base currency, Ethereum just as much so as well for the same, is that you want to overperform the market. So if you're trading, maybe you start off with a Bitcoin, you're buying and selling other things, you want that number to go to 1 to 1.5 to 2 to 3 and so on and so forth. If you start off with, say, 10 Ether or whatever number it happens to be, you're trading that against other ones, and there are Ethereum-based markets. You want that number to go higher, maybe to 12, 15, and so on and so forth. So Litecoin against the dollar. Which exchange do I want to use? Bitstamp, I think, gives me data. Coinbase hasn't been around for as long. And I also don't mind using these ones here, calculated by TradingView against the dollar, because there's more data, so that's what I'm going to use. The daily charts can look a little weird, as far as because these pierces are not as real. Let me give you an example of such by showing this on Coinbase. So you can see more of those intraday pierces on the Coinbase price. So in this example here, from the December breakout rally, and I'm going to do some Fibonacci here while I'm at it, I look to see any type of key low, and I'm going to use the November lows here of $52.82. And we're going to use the highs, which I think was around 400. So I'm just going to put 400 in. And for what it's worth, they all trade at different prices amongst exchanges. So if you're trying to think you want to use exact numbers, it's really useless, meaningless, I would think. Key levels, 114 and 185. Usually these numbers get pierced extra, as I call it. Meaning if it's going to go up to a number, it's going to go higher than that. If it's going to go down to a number, it's going to go lower than that. So here's the 185 point, which is really only testing in that area now for the first time. So it was doing a 23.6% correction in here. This was basically, you could say it's a 50% correction, whatever. But we had the support mark here, again in here, and it's been grinding in a downtrend. And it could keep doing it, but the 100 number was a huge level. So if there's going to be further decline, it would not surprise me if it were to go there. I think the probability that it would stay there for a decent period of time is low, and that it would get back up in here pretty darn near quickly. It could pierce to 72 or 75, who knows on that as well. But I would think it would be more likely if it just has a fast move on a break of any of these support levels to the 100, and then within the hour start to move up to 110, and then within the day move into like 130, 140 kind of territories. So let's take a look at this on a longer term. And I guess we'll do the weekly chart. So we'll forget what happened there. There we go. So you talk about price increases. Early 2017, about 10 months ago, the price action goes from $3.50 pretty much up to and staying around 50. It's better than a 10x gain. And it did so in about 4 months. Now notice its first correctionary move, though, happened from 37 down to 18. And then it had some small gains after it. So this is its first correctionary move now, going from 400 to under 200. It's lost over half its value, which in the crypto space is like saying the stock market lost 7%. Maybe even 5%. It's pretty outrageous, this volatility. And because of that outrageousness, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing not only gets over 1,000, but many thousands of dollars. Remember Bitcoin, when it broke 1,000, it went no problem going to 10,000. And as I mentioned on the outset of this video, here I am buying silver with Litecoin, just the exact same way I would do it with Bitcoin. And the differentials were, the fee was about 3 cents compared to $3 or more. And it's better now that I'm saying $3 or more compared to $20 or more like it was back in the day. And then to take a lot quicker of a time, to me it's a much better coin. So when you have Bitcoin prices going up 20 times in a year like it's nothing, well, to me, that's why when I talk about $4,000 or $5,000 being a possible scenario, and I even think 3,000 being conservative, 2,500 area being conservative, that's me being real on what I think the situation to look like. Now, many reasons why I bought the silver today. Normally I wouldn't, because I want to buy it on the way up. And I guess it's just an in-case situation. If it goes back down in here, I'll basically buy some more Litecoin. The way I look at it is I need less Bitcoin in my life now, because one of the reasons I hold Bitcoin is to buy precious metals. I can just do that with Litecoin. And I do expect that when this thing goes pretty big, you're talking about, okay, so we're looking at 3,000 or even $2,000 Litecoin. Price goes up better than 10 times. And 10 times is like nothing in this space. For 10 times on here would have been like up to here. So it can happen. If we're looking at like 1750 Litecoin, what would the price of silver be? Well, let's just say it does its beautiful rallies. It gets up to like even 25, 26, 30. So 3,000 into 30. Well, now we're starting to talk about 100 to 1 ratio. That would be interesting, to say the least. 100 to 1 ratio for silver and Litecoin. Right now, it's better than 10. Yeah, what did I buy mine at? 9.22. I'm paying a little bit because you pay over spot. So the amount of silver that can be purchased with the amount of Litecoin I would plan on holding at that time, to me would be magnificent. So buying 50 ounces of silver now is the smallest purchase I have made over the last 3. My third largest purchase I have made like in a long time, which means my purchases of silver have been getting higher and higher because it's cheaper to buy and I own more cryptocurrencies. But the amounts that I get are pretty decent. That it would be nice to be able to have this thing break out later on. Oh, it's a 100-to-1 ratio. So what would say 15 Litecoin get me? Ooh, 1,500. That's like 3 monster boxes. Okay, yes, set me up for that. That's like some of the plans later on in the future. So thank you for tuning in. It's been a long video, but I planned on such. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.